There's another exciting week in college football, and we are no longer closer to knowing who's going to be the top team in the SEC. Ole Miss went to Florida ranked number 3 in the nation and will certainly be moving down after the Gators won 38-10. Florida quarterback Will Grier passed for 4 touchdowns and will look to continue the momentum at Missouri next weekend. Alabama, after being upset by Ole Miss, went all the way down to Athens, Georgia to play the Bulldogs, where they actually destroyed them 38-10. The Bulldogs ran the ball well with Heisman hopeful Nick Chubb rushing close to 150 yards, but were unable to get anything going through the air. Georgia quarterback Grayson Lambert was pulled late in the game for Bryce Ramsey.
It seemed like Penn State was going to just give Army the win on the gridiron over the weekend as a gift on Military Appreciation Day at Beaver Stadium. If you were expecting an offensive shootout, earmuffs. No Saquon Barkley or Akeel Lynch. Nick Scott and Mark Allen split carries with Scott, scoring a touchdown in the first quarter. That's on an 11-yard score. Joey Julius hit 2 field goals to put the lines up 13-0. But Army, who's not known for passing the ball, Rob, they run that triple option offense, did complete the first passing attempt of the game in the third quarter. That was for them with backup quarterback A.J. Scher finding Edgar Allan Poe, future Raven. Get it?
Boy, I got it.
Scher would take it in for the score, cutting the lead 13-7. Christian Hackenberg would complete a touchdown to Mike Gesicki for 33 yards at the end of the third quarter. Penn State would sneak out a win in a game they were really supposed to dominate, 20-14. Penn State now 4-1 on the year. Carl Nassib is now in a tie with Wisconsin linebacker Joe Schobert. That's for first in the FBS with 9 sacks. For former walk-on, that's not too bad, Rob.
Well, Louisville men's basketball coach Rick Pitino said today that not one person knew about the alleged use of escorts for recruits. Kana Powell wrote in her book, Breaking Cardinal Rules, Basketball and the Escort Queen, that former director of basketball operations Andre McGee paid an escort service to provide sex for recruits. The NCAA and Louisville will be looking into the allegations.
NFL Dolphins fire head coach Joe Philbin after the loss to the Jets dropped them to 1-3. Tight end coach and overall large human being Dan Campbell will fill in the interim. The Eagles dropped one in the final seconds as Kirk Cousins connected with Pierre Garçon for a 4-yard score with 26 seconds left. That's to give Washington the 23-20 win. Rob, who would have thought that the offense would be what's wrong with Chip Kelly's offense?
Definitely no Eagles fans.
No Eagles fans, not me. Birds fall to 1-3. Skins improved to 2-2. Bengals beat the Chiefs. Falcons crushed the Texans. Chicago able to sneak by Oakland in Jay Cutler's return. Marshawn Lynch out for tonight's Monday night battle with the Lions in Seattle. We'll be right back. Stay tuned to PSSN. We'll be talking Major League Baseball playoffs coming up next.
Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. Alongside Mark Cantonini and Mike Gilbert, I'm Alex Blankman, talking about MLB Postseason today. CC Sabathia checking himself into rehab today, the day before the New York Yankees will take the field against the Houston Astros. Guys, what do you think of this?
Well, I'll tell you what, this caught everybody by surprise. I don't think anyone expected the Yankees to lose one of their top arms at this point in the season, nonetheless, right before the postseason. This is a guy who really has picked it up in the second half, so this is just a tough blow, but they just got to get through that first wildcard game and then reassess from there.
I think it's good to see CC on our new technology here at Penn State Sports Night, but I don't like the fact that I think there's more to the story than they're letting on, because this is a very interesting time for him to do this and take this step. I mean, if it was very serious, obviously his teammates didn't know about it because they were pouring champagne on the other day, but this is a guy who's been a leader for the Yankees, so far in the second half of the season, and this is kind of a young rotation. For him to be out like this, I think it's big for the Yankees.
Yeah, and he was the guy back in 2009 when they won the World Series over the Phillies, ALCS MVP. So obviously later in his career he hasn't pitched well all season, but it comes down to losing a veteran guy at the wrong time.
Yeah, I think it also matters a lot in the clubhouse. But maybe if they won this game, the fact that their teammates would be pouring champagne on them does have something to do with it.
And they were going to go to a 3-man rotation regardless. It would have been Tanaka, Pineda, and Severino.
Right, but he has a sub-2.5 ERA this year against lefties alone. So maybe a left-handed specialist out of the bullpen and a veteran leader in the clubhouse.
And all hands on deck in the playoffs.
Right. You always want
big loss either way.
Yeah, you always want your best guys.
It's a veteran arm, like I said before, that just went down at the most terrible time. So you lose a guy like that. I mean, going to have to figure out who goes on the roster instead of him.
Right. So let's get to the game now. Yankees-Astros. What are you guys thinking?
All right. The first thing I'm thinking about is Dallas Keuchel in this game going for the Astros. This is the guy who's the AL Cy Young favorite at this point. He went 20-8, had a sub-3 ERA, around 2.48, I believe it was. But this is a guy who went 15-0 at home, but only 5-8 on the road with an ERA close to 4. He hasn't pitched well on the road at all. This game is away from Houston. It's in Yankee Stadium. I think that's the biggest factor in this one.
like you said, Mike, 20-8 overall record. Those 8 losses all on the road. Keuchel's been tough on the Yankees in his 2 starts against them this year, but first of all, let me say I think Severino should be pitching in this game. I think he's obviously, to throw a 21-year-old out there like that in a one-game playoff is tough, but I think he's pitched better than Tanaka when Tanaka's been healthy this season. I think you have to give him the ball, but they're not going to. I still think the Yankees get it done at home. They'll face Kansas City in the second round.
Yeah, one big thing, at least with me and Keuchel, he has a 1.77 ERA against lefties, and 6 out of the 9 Yankee batters are lefties. Jacoby Ellsbury, Brett Gardner, Brian McCann, Greg Bird, Didi Gregorius, and Dustin Ackley.
How big a blow is it that they lost Teixeira?
Yeah, Teixeira was a
big.
huge
That's
bat.
another veteran bat there.
Yeah, 2 guys were both there in the 2009 World Series. They've been there before. But the Yankees have an older club, and maybe they can pull this one out. Maybe Tanaka will deal, despite the fact
Right, and I don't see them having an older club as a problem. I see that more as a positive going into the playoffs, especially you talk about playing October baseball. You want guys with experience. And there's players up and down this lineup that have experience. I mean, Brett Gardner's been there before. Carlos Beltran's a postseason killer, one of the best all time in October.
Unless he's playing for the Mets.
Right. A-Rod's been there before. So you just go up and down that lineup, and guys have experience. So I think that bodes well, especially in a one-and-done situation.
So how do you see this game playing out?
I'm going Yankees. This was a toss-up for me, but I like the Yankees with home field advantage. The fact that Keuchel hasn't pitched well on the road. And talk about a guy like Tanaka, who has an ERA over 10 against the Astros this season, but he's at home. He's going to have that home crowd behind him. And here's a guy who, it's only his 2nd year in the major leagues, but he pitched professionally in Japan, so this is an experienced pitcher going up there. I'm going New York.
I'll take New York as well.
Unfortunately, I will take the Astros in this one. I think Keuchel's too good overall as a pitcher, and as much as home field advantage is going to help the Yankees, I think the Astros pull out a close one. But this is not the only wild card game. Moving on to the other wild card game, the 2nd and 3rd best teams in the MLB. Pirates, 98 wins. Cubs, 97 wins. Cubs on an 8-game winning streak right now. What are you guys thinking?
Look, and anytime you go into October hot, the way that the Cubs, 8 wins in a row, 8 of their last 10, the hot teams go far in October. This is a one-and-done scenario, so anything could happen. But the way they're playing, and especially with the way Jake Arrieta's pitching, I see no reason to believe that they're not going to win this game.
Yeah, I think the bats are too strong for Chicago, and they'll be able to put up some runs on Garrett Cole, I think. I think Garrett Cole, not a lot of postseason experience, had some last year, but again, if the Pirates have the lead late in the game, there's Melanson, who had the most saves in the National League.
Yeah, and you talk about Garrett Cole. Here's a guy who went 19-8 this year, really established himself as an ace in this league, one of the top pitchers in the game. 260 ERA, 202 strikeouts. Had a really rough August, but he really picked it up, had a strong September. Yeah. But you just go back to Jake Arrieta on the other side of the ball. This is a guy who maybe had the best second half in Major League Baseball ever. You talk about a guy who, from August on, had an 0.40 ERA. That's the best ever, all time.
And he was 11-0 in that span.
All time, right. 12-1 in the second half.
22-6 on the year.
Yeah, 12-1 in the second half itself.
Thanks, Mike and Mike. Over to Tom and Jeff for an NHL update.
All right, thank you, Alex. I'm Jeff Takeoff. This is Tom Campagna. We are here to update you on the NHL, which starts this Wednesday, and we are going to take you through what has happened in this offseason so far. And I guess we got to get right to it. The biggest thing was how Mike Babcock, who spent 10 years, building this Detroit team, signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the conference rivals. What do you think about that? He's now the highest paid coach at 8 years, $50 million.
Well, Mike Babcock definitely deserved the contract, but I don't think his effects in Toronto are going to be felt right away. They lost Phil Kessel to Pittsburgh in the offseason. I don't think they have anybody to replace his scoring right now. But in reverse, Pittsburgh, they've become more of a powerhouse. We already have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, David Perron. So they get Kessel to help out the power play.
But at the expense of their defense. They have a very young defense. But, right across the way, you have Boston. Shops all their big names. Lucic goes to L.A. Dougie Hamilton goes to Calgary. What do you see there?
I'm not sure what Don Sweeney was thinking when he traded Dougie Hamilton. He's an upcoming defenseman. He's going to be a stud in a couple years. But he's going to help Calgary's defense, who's already a stacked defense. They lost Giordano in the playoffs, so he'll step in, take them to the next step.
And speaking of losing stars, you gotta talk about the Chicago Blackhawks. Lost both Sharp and Oduya, veteran Stanley Cup defenseman and forward, to the Stars, who now have a more rounded out team. They add this scoring power that they lacked last year and a good blue line defenseman. But, at the same time, the Chicago Blackhawks are sitting here struggling. And who knows, with this, up-and-coming story with Patrick Kane in the sexual assault case, who knows what they're going to have.
Exactly. And they also lost Brandon Saad to Columbus. So a lot of holes to fill there.
And then onward, the Flyers signed the third ever NCAA coach, straight from college to the NHL. He has never won a national championship, but did make 7 Frozen Four appearances in 11 seasons. What do you think he's going to add to this Flyers team that struggled last year?
I think he's just going to bring a new offensive mindset. I mean, Hextall went out of the organization, so it's going to be a different look for the Flyers. It won't be the same Broad Street bully mentality, but it'll be exciting to see what he can do for the Flyers. But at the same time, I don't think he's the most exciting NCAA signing this year. I think it's Jack Eichel from Boston University, second overall pick. So he outplayed McDavid, who's the sought-after next Sidney Crosby in the preseason.
Yeah.
So I think Eichel's going to be the most exciting player to watch from NCAA.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. This is Tom Copagna. I'm Jeff Tinkoff. Thank you for tuning in.